So number one, we've only got 3 letters, so this is the Cal-Perfect 3ms form of kaved. Number two, the first 3 letters are our root. Last 2 are our suffix. The T suffix goes with the Cal-Perfect 1cs. Number 3, the first 3 letters are our root. The 4th letter is the Cal-Perfect 2ms suffix. Number 4, first 3 letters are our root. Last 2 letters are the Cal-Perfect 2mp suffix. Number 5, first 3 are the root. Last letter is the Shurik Cal-Perfect 3cp suffix. Number 6, first 3 are the root. Last letter is the hey, or the comet's hey rather, of the Cal-Perfect 3fs. And then number 7, first 3 are the root achal. The last 2 letters are the nun Shurik nu suffix that we use for the Cal-Perfect 1cp. So pretty straightforward there. Again, he gives you in lesson 8 some of the explanations for why you've got your second root letter vowel reducing to shava when you've got a vocalic suffix, why you've got the shift in accent, achalnu instead of achalnu when you've got the consonantal suffix. But a lot of that you don't need to memorize. You certainly don't need to memorize. You don't even really need to know at this point, but it helps you understand why these shifts are taking place. Section E here, the translations. Again, I'm going to use this opportunity, especially since it's a relatively short lesson, to go through this 2-stage process of translation. So stage 1 is going to be analyzing the Hebrew words. Let's go ahead and put this down here so we're not cheating. Number 1, we've got yeshav. Again, I'm going to start with the anticipation that my first word is a verb. And another good sort of rule of thumb is if you don't recognize the word at all, it might be a complicatedly conjugated verb. So that's another, if you don't know what it is, think maybe it's a verb and try to parse it out that way. But the first one I expect or I anticipate a verb, sure enough, I get a 3-letter root with a kametz patak vowel pattern. That tells me I have a Cal-Perfect 3ms form of yod, shin, bait. I've learned this root in my vocabulary as sit or dwell, or maybe even live. So this would be he lived as a gloss. It is my verb. Next I've got ha-kohen. Ha-kohen here, this is going to be, it starts with a hey, so I think, hey, maybe I have a definite article. Hey patak dagesh confirms that. If I take off the hey patak dagesh, I'm left with kohen. That is a word that I've learned. This is the word for priest. So I have a masculine singular noun. I have to determine how is this noun functioning in the sentence. There are only 2, actually now we've learned 3 in lesson 9. We've learned that a noun can function as the object of a preposition. But the other 2 functions, there is no preposition here, so we don't have to worry about that. The other 2 functions are the subject of the verb and the object, or the direct object rather, of the verb. So I have to determine, is ha-kohen the subject or is it the direct object? Since it's definite, if it were the direct object, I would expect to see the et particle, which I do not see. Therefore, this is probably acting as the subject of the verb. Now, I need to confirm that by checking whether it agrees with the verb in gender and number. The verb was 3ms, masculine singular. Kohen needs to be masculine singular if it's going to be the subject, and sure enough it is. So, I've got a verb, I've got my subject noun. Now I go into stage 2, which is trying to figure out how would English build this sentence. So I ask English, hey English, what do you want first in a sentence? English wants the subject first. So I come back to my Hebrew, I grab the subject. We decided that Kohen means priest. It's got a definite article. So we're going to translate this as the priest. We're going to bring that down. We've got our subject. Then I ask English, what do you want after the subject? English wants the verb next. So I come back to my verb, he sat. Since I have an explicit subject, the priest, I don't need the pronoun he. I can just bring sat over. The priest sat. And there we've got our translation. I wish, let me see here. My scroll was a little bit finer. Or I could go to number 2. There we go. All right, David, welcome. Any questions that you have that you want to go over? I want to prioritize those before we stick with the rest of the Futato exercises. You're still muted there.
Sorry about that. Yes, I think I'm okay. Thank you.
All right, well, we'll keep plugging through. If you guys have any questions, please unmute yourself and just jump in and interrupt me. I may not see you waving because you're kind of off to my side here. So, number 2, again, 2-stage process. Let's start by analyzing the Hebrew. So, first word, we're expecting a verb. We've got a 3-letter root, but we don't have the kametz patak pattern. We have kametz sere. That's okay. There's a special class of verbs that we've learned about called stative verbs that don't describe actions, like yeshav describes an action, he sat. Kaved doesn't describe an action, it describes a state of being. And in this case, the state of being is being heavy or weighty. That's what kaved means. He is weighty or he is heavy. So kaved, being a stative verb, he is heavy, Cal-Perfect 3ms form, masculine singular. So we've parsed that one out. There is no suffix, it's just 3ms. We go to our next word. What do you know? It's the same thing. Ha-kohen. So again, masculine singular noun. It has the definite article. And again, when we ask, is this the subject, the direct object, or maybe the object of a preposition? There is no preposition. There is no direct object marker, which we would expect since it's definite if it were the direct object. So this must then be the subject. Again, we have to check the agreement. Does Kohen agree in gender and number with the verb? Verb is masculine singular. Kohen is masculine singular. So that works. Go back to the second stage now of our translation process. How would English build this sentence? English, what do you want first? It wants the subject first. So I grab the priest, I bring it over here, the priest. Right? English, what do you want after the subject? English wants the verb. That's what I have over here. He is heavy. Since I have an explicit subject, I don't need he. I don't need that pronoun. I can just bring is heavy over. The priest is heavy. Number 3 here. Oh, I want to cover that, don't I? All right, so again, I anticipate the verb. At the beginning, I've got a 3-letter root with a kametz patak vowel pattern. So that tells me I've got a cal-perfect 3ms verb. Yod dalet ayin I've learned as he knew in the lexical form, which is what this is. No suffix or anything. Then I've got et ha. Oh, I got a little dyslexic there. Et ha mishpat. The et marker here tells me out the gate that I'm going to have a noun, and it's going to be definite, and it's going to be the direct object. So there's no real question here about how this is functioning. Et tells me how it's functioning. Ha mishpat, I've got a hey, that might be the definite article. I can confirm that by finding the patak dagesh. If I take those off, I should have a Hebrew word that I recognize. Mishpat is the word for decision or judgment. It is mishpat. That is masculine. The tet throws me off. If a word ends in a tav, there's a good chance that it's feminine. But tet is not tav, so this would be masculine singular. The hey, definite article, says we should translate this as the judgment or the decision. And we've fully analyzed this. We know what the function of this noun is because et has told us that. So now we go into phase or stage 2 again. How would English build this sentence? English, what do you want first? I want the subject, okay? I come over here. I've got no subject in Hebrew. There is no subject here. The subject is implied by the verbal form, but it doesn't actually contain a subject. So I'll just use my detective work to find out. Since the verb is third masculine singular, the subject must be third masculine singular. So I'll just use a pronoun to stand in for the subject. My third masculine singular pronoun in English is he. I could use it if the verb does not imply personhood. But knowing, that's an action, and actually it's a state, I think. I think know would be a state. But that implies personhood. Sticks don't know. So I will use he here. He knew. Well, I shouldn't even go that far yet. English, what do you want first? I want your subject. Okay, well, we found out that the subject is going to be 3ms. The 3ms pronoun in English is he, so I bring he down here. Boom, he. English, what do you want after the subject? It wants the verb next. All right, we'll go back up here. My verb is yada. Yada means knew, and so we'll put knew here. English, what do you want after the verb? It wants the direct object, so now we come get our direct object, et ha mishpat. We decided that that means the decision or the judgment. We bring that down. Now we can put our period in. Now we're done with our translation. But we don't just stop after we've analyzed the Hebrew. We then have to go to stage 2 and ask, how would English put this sentence together? All right, number 4, we've got, again, I'm going to expect a verb, and sure enough, I get a verb, yad'u, pretty much the same as yada, but here I've got a shurek suffix. Because this suffix is a vowel, it starts with a vowel, I'm going to reduce my R2 vowel, my R2 vowel here. That's why I get yad'u. All right, this is my cal-perfect 3CP form, so my subject must be plural. It can be masculine or feminine because it's a common form, third common plural, but it does have to be plural. Right? And so we decide this means basically they knew. Next I have ha'anashim, and for some reason my text doesn't have the hirik here, but ha'anashim, I see a hey, that might be the definite article. I don't see a patak dagesh, but I do see a kametz in front of an aleph, which is just as good. If I take the hey kametz off, I've got anashim. Anashim is the irregular plural of ish. I say irregular because a quote-unquote regular plural of ish would be ishim, but that's not a word in Hebrew. The word ishim doesn't exist in Hebrew. In fact, there is no plural form of ish, and so in order to make ish plural, we have to borrow the plural form of a totally different word. This is the plural form of enosh. Enosh is another word for man, but when we use the plural form here, anashim, we're basically using it in the same sense that we would use ish. If you ask what's the difference between ish and enosh, there's not a huge difference. Some people play up the idea that enosh means like man in his fallen state. That's really, that's reading a lot into the word. But basically, because ish doesn't have a plural, if we want to make ish plural, we have to borrow the plural form of enosh. Right? And that's why Futato said up here in lesson 4 or whatever it was, in the notes to the vocabulary, just be aware that anashim is your plural form of ish. So if anashim means men or people, it's got a definite article, so it would be the men or the people. It is a noun. We have to determine how is this noun functioning in the sentence. Is it the object of a preposition? No, there is no preposition. Is it a direct object? It's not, because it's definite and it lacks the definite direct object marker. So since it lacks that, it's not going to be the direct object. The only thing left is subject. But we have to make sure that it agrees with the verb in gender and number. The verb is common plural, so it could be masculine or feminine, but it has to be plural. Sure enough, anashim is plural, so it does match. All right, so we've got the men, or the people, and it is the subject of the verb. Next, we have et, which tells us, okay, whatever this is going to be your definite direct object. We take off the definite article, we get mishpatim, which is just the plural form of mishpat. So this is a masculine plural noun. It is the direct object, and it has a definite article. So we're going to translate this as the judgments or the decisions. All right, so we're done with the first stage of our translation. Now we have to move into stage 2. How would English build this sentence? English, what do you want? Yeah, go for it.
So you said this ha-anashim, you kind of gave a range of meaning of the men or the people. Is that inherent in the word anashim, or is that relative to how you would speak of a mixed group of people in Hebrew?
In
Does
Hebrew,
that question make sense?
Yeah, if there is a group of people that is comprised of males and females, you're going to use the word anashim to refer to them. The trail comes in, but yes, the men or the people knew the judgments. So English, what do you want first? I want your subject. We decided that was ha-anashim, the people. All right, what do you want after the people or the men? I want your verb. Okay, we come back here, verb. Ya-du. That means new, so I bring new over. What do you want after the verb? I want the direct object, the judgments. Boom. Now that we've rebuilt that sentence into English, now we can put the period on it. All right, I'll go through the rest of these a little bit more quickly, but still noting that switch from analyzing Hebrew to building the English sentence. So shalachti, we've got the T suffix. This is 1CS. We've got a definite direct object marker here. No other word, no other noun, so our noun is just going to be implied by the verb form. We're not going to have a separate pronoun for I. So this would be I sent, and then what did I send? Et answers that question. I sent hana'ar. I sent the boy, or the servant. Number 6, we've got shaluhu. This is the 3CP form with the shurek, so it's plural. Now we do have a noun that is definite without the definite direct object marker, so this is our subject. Ha-nevi'im, this is the prophets. So the prophets is our subject. That's what we're going to start our English sentence with. The prophets sent. What did they send? Et tells us. Ha-ne'arim. Ne'arim is the plural form of na'ar, so this is just more than one boy or servant. The prophets sent the boys. Number 7, zavehu. This is zavach, 3CP, the shurek. So this is they slaughtered or they sacrificed. Then I have the et marker for my direct object. So I don't have an explicit subject here. I'm just going to use they in my translation. What does English want first? The subject, so I just bring they down. What does it want after the subject? The verb. So now I bring zavehu down, sacrificed. They sacrificed what? 8 tells me. 8 answers what? B, sacrifices. They sacrificed the sacrifices. Zavachim. Number 8, we've got shema. Shema is the 3MS form. And so it's just he heard. Then I've got ha'ish. This is definite, but it doesn't have the definite direct object marker. So this is probably going to be my subject. Davar could be my subject if davars could hear anything, but they can't. So I've got a definite subject and an indefinite direct object, which is why I don't have the et particle here. Et only appears when I have a definite direct object. Because davar is indefinite, I don't use et. So again, English, what do you want first? The subject. We decided that was ha'ish, the man. What do you want after the subject? The verb. The man heard. What did the man hear? There's no et to point me to it, but my only word left is davar, a word or a message. The man heard a message or a word. Number 9, we've got shema with the new suffix. This is 1CP, so this would be we heard. The next word is a noun. It is the definite direct object. So again, no explicit subject here. We're just going to use we. So English wants its subject first, so we can go ahead and write down we, and then we'll go for the verb, shemanu. Shemanu means heard. We heard. Heard what? Et. Et answers the question of what we heard, and that is ha devarim. Devarim is the plural form of davar, so this is the words or the messages. We heard the words. Number 10, we've got zacharta. Zacharta is the calperfect 2MS form, the ta suffix. We don't have, we've only got one noun over here, and it has the definite direct object marker, so we don't have an explicit subject. So we're just going to bring that you over into the English sentence. That's our subject. Now we need the verb. Zachar means remember. It's calperfect, so it's going to be remembered. You remembered. Remembered what? 8 answers that question. Hayom. Hayom is the word for day with the definite article. You remembered the day. Number 11, zachra. Zachra is the 3FS form of zachar, remember. So we can check to see if we have a subject. We have the noun ha'isha, which is feminine singular. That would be a good match. And then we have the noun ha'ir, but that's marked as the definite direct object. So that's not going to be our subject. Since since ha'isha agrees with the verb, and there's no other function for ha'isha to be fulfilling in this sentence, it's not the direct object, it's not the object of a preposition, we're going to assume that it is the subject. The woman remembered. What did the woman remember? Et ha'ir. She remembered the city. Number 12, we have la kahu. La kahu is 3CP form of lakach, which means he took. The 3CP form means they took, so our subject would have to be plural. We've got ha milachim. which is definite but does not have the definite direct object marker. So it can't be the direct object. It is plural, so it's a good candidate for subject. So then what is ear doing? Ear is another noun in the sentence. Ear can't be the subject because it's not plural. What else could it be doing? It's not the object of a preposition because it doesn't have a preposition. The only other function for this noun that we've learned so far is direct object of the verb. It is indefinite, which is why we don't have the et particle. So English, what do you want first? I want the subject. We decided that ha-melachim is the subject, the kings. So we put the kings in. What do you want after the subject? It wants the verb. So we go back to lakahu. They took. But since we have a subject, we don't need they. We don't need that they pronoun. So we just take took and put it here. Well, he went with seized. So the kings seized. What did they seize? We don't have et to point to us, but the only verb left to be the object of seizing is Ir, a city. Not the city, and not city. We don't translate this as the kings seized city, because that's not English. Because city is a count noun, or countable noun, that is, we can count cities, we're going to put an indefinite article in front of it. I know there's no indefinite article in Hebrew, but part of English translation is understanding what is good English and what is bad English. If we just translate this as the kings took city, that would not be an English translation because the kings took city or the kings seized city is not English. The king seized a city. All right, number 13, we have Shama'ah. This is the 3FS form of Shema, which means he remembered. 3FS form means she remembered. So our subject, if we have one, must be feminine singular. Ha'em is our next word. It is a noun and it is feminine singular, so it's a good candidate for our subject. We also know it's not the it's not the direct object because it is definite, but it doesn't have ate. The next word does though. Et marks Hashem as our definite direct object. So English, what do you want first? I want the subject. We decided that that is ha'em, so we put the mother in. What do you want after the subject? I want the verb, so we go back and find our verb. Shama'ah, heard. The mother heard. Since we have an explicit subject, the mother, we don't need she heard. We don't need that pronoun she. We just bring heard over. The mother heard. Heard what? Et tells us what? Heard the name. Hashem. Number 14, here we start with our direct object. Well, that's unusual. I mean, it's not crazy. It happens, but it's certainly not typical, which is why Futato feels the need to add his little parenthetical note here. Et hamilchamot, whatever this is, it's the direct object of the verb. So let's break it up and see what we got. We can take et off because we know that its only function here is to tell us this is the direct object. We've got ha, we've got a hey, which, hey, this might be the definite article. We confirm that with the patak dagesh. That is the sign of the definite article. We take that off and we should be left with a Hebrew verb, or a Hebrew word that we know. Milchamot. Now, milchamot itself was not a vocabulary word that we had. But when we look at the end of this word, we see the holam vav tav ending. And that's a good indication that we have a feminine plural form. So how do we get back to the lexical form from holam vav tav? Well, if it's feminine, the feminine singular form, which would be the lexical form, should be kametz hey. So if we change holam vav tav back to kametz hey, what do we get? We get milchama. Milchama is a Hebrew word that we've had in our vocabulary, and it means battle. So this is plural, feminine plural, so battles, and it's definite, the battles. But we have to remember this is the direct object. Next we go to shama'u. This is our verb. 3CP, indicated by the shurik. Shema means he heard. Shama'u would mean they heard. And then we have a noun. Well, I guess we're not going to decide that yet. We have a word, starts with a hey. Hey, this might be a definite article. We take off the hey, patak dagesh, and we should be left with a Hebrew word that we recognize. Mishpachot itself was not one of our vocabulary words, but just like with milchamot, if we look at the ending, holam vav tav, we might recognize this is a feminine plural ending. How do we get it back to the singular, which would be the vocabulary form that we learned? Change holam vav tav back to kametz hey for the feminine singular, and we get mishpacha. Mishpacha is the vocabulary word that we've had. It means family or clan. Mishpachot would be families or clans, and then of course it is definite. So we already know that the function of et hamilchamot is direct object, so what function is left for this noun, hamishpachot? It's not the object of a preposition because it doesn't have a preposition. It's not the definite direct object because while it is definite, it doesn't have a direct object marker. So the only function left is for it to be the subject. We need to check it and make sure it agrees in gender and number with the verb. The verb is third common plural, so it can take a feminine or masculine noun as its subject, but it must be plural. Mishpachot is feminine plural, so it fits. So this is our subject. The families or the clans is the subject. We can't just translate this in the word order it's given. If we did, we would have the battles. They heard the families. But battles can't hear anything. We have to start with our subject in English. So what is our subject? Hamishpachot. Even though this comes last in the Hebrew sentence, it needs to come first in our English sentence. The families. What do we want after the subject? We want the verb. Shama'u. They heard. Since we have the subject families, we don't need the pronoun they. We can just bring heard over. The families heard. heard what? Et answers that question. Et hamilchamot. They heard the battles. All right. Now, Futato adds this parenthetical note, not the animals, to point out that et hamilchamot is fronted here. There's some sort of emphasis being given, as if to say, the battles is what the families heard. Or I should say the battles are what the families heard, not something else, like the animals. The families heard the battles, underlined. All right. And then number 15 here, again, we start with our definite direct object. Et ha-malchut. So whatever the verb is, this is the thing that's being verbed. Ha-malchut, hey, that looks like the definite article. We'll take off a hey patak dagesh. We should have some sort of Hebrew word here. Malchut, this is a Hebrew word that we've learned. It means kingdom. So ha-malchut is the kingdom. Next we have yedatem. Yedatem is the cow-perfect 2MP form of yada, which is he knew. So yedatem would be you all, masculine plural, knew. We don't have an explicit subject. We don't have a subject pronoun or anything. So we'll just use this verb form to indicate that our English pronoun would be you. It would be a second-person masculine plural pronoun. Well, we use you for pretty much all second-person pronouns, regardless of gender or number. So we'll stick you in there as our English pronoun. That is the subject of the verb. The verb then is knew. Since we don't have an explicit subject, we do need the you here. You knew. So we bring that whole thing over. You knew what? 8 answers that question. You knew the kingdom. I have no idea why Futato chose to pick an object like kingdom, or a noun like kingdom, to be the object of a verb like knew. You knew the kingdom is not, I don't know how kingdom and knew fit together. You knew the kingdom. You knew of the kingdom, maybe. You knew about the kingdom. But that's a weird collocation here. But it is what it is. That's it for the exercises. Any questions or anything? Yeah.
Yes. Back on your number 14, where you went from the plural of, got the word there, mishpachot. You said, okay, take off the whole involved tav and put in the comments, hey, well, the whole involved tav is a feminine ending. So you went to the singular feminine ending, but that noun could have been masculine, right? Yeah. So that's just one option. You put in the singular feminine ending, and it turned out that worked as the lexical form, correct? But it could have been a masculine too.
Yeah, in terms of probability, the whole involved tav will most frequently, but let's say we had the word avot, like the word fathers here. If I looked at avot and I said, this should be a noun that I've learned, and I didn't learn the noun avot, but look, it's got a whole involved tav ending. So if I take that off and I put a comments hey on there, then that should be maybe a noun that I learned. Well, that would give me avah. And so that would obviously be wrong. That's your point, is sometimes avot might go on a masculine noun. You're absolutely right. I'm kind of skipping some steps here. What I would do in a more detailed way is because I'm kind of trying to pretend like I don't recognize anything here, because you guys may come across words that you don't recognize. So what do you do in that situation? Obviously, when I see hamishpachot, I know what this word is, but let's say I didn't do my vocabulary, I don't remember, or maybe I just come across a word I've never seen before. What do I do in that situation where I don't know what to make of this? Well, the first thing that I do is I recognize, hey, there's a definite article on here, let's take that off. And then I might go look up mishpachot as I see it here, because maybe it's just a coincidence that it ends in a whole involved tav. Maybe that's not a feminine plural ending, maybe that's just the root. Maybe, we don't know. So if I go look up this word in the lexicon, I'm not going to find it because it's not a lexical form. So what can I do next? Well, the next thing that I would do is I would say this is probably a feminine plural ending. So let me go back to the feminine singular ending and get mishpacha and then go look that up. Now at that point, I do find this word, but that would not work for av. If I take the whole involved tav off of avot and I put on the comments, hey, avah, and I go look that up, I'm not going to find it. Avah isn't, avah isn't the correct word, I should say. At that point, I can add another step and say, well, I looked up avot, couldn't find that. I looked up avah, couldn't find that. Maybe this is one of those weird, irregular plurals where the singular isn't avah, it's just av. So let me go look up av now. Well, sure enough, when I go look up av, not only do I find av, but it also tells me in the entry somewhere, if I can find it, these are all of the suffix forms. I feel like it should tell me pretty close to the front that the plural is avot. Here we go, plural. There we go. Okay, so I'm looking for this, plural. All right, and that's where I get avot. Now this is just saying that sometimes in avot you'll have that holum, sometimes you won't have, sometimes it'll just be a holum, sometimes it'll be a holum vav. But anyways, so it can confirm for me that this is the plural form of av. But I have found av now, and so I look up and it means father. So now I can go back to my translation and put in the meaning father, but it's plural, so I want to say fathers. So yes, this did work for mishpachot because it's not irregular. And it won't always work, but in that case where it doesn't always work, you can always think, okay, maybe this is one of those irregular plurals. So let me try, take off the comma te and just have of, go look that up, and then you would end up with it. So, but yeah, by numbers, holim vav tav 80 to 90% of the time is going to be the feminine plural form of a comma te noun.